Hello everybody, hope you're doing well and thanks for joining us for another video. Recently, I've seen quite a few flat earth posts relating to this video.
Globers are gonna hate this video because this is ultimate proof that the earth is not a globe. See, the first clip I'm gonna show you is a video of a kid that tried to get the Guinness Book of Record for the longest shot ever recorded. Little did he know, he literally proved that the earth isn't a globe.
So this is a flat earther who I've covered in a previous video. He was going by the name Truth Earth 911. He predominantly posts to TikTok, explains a lot, and spoiler alert, he's going to try and prove that the earth is flat by using the evidence that the earth is not flat.
Which makes this the longest recorded video ever.
12 whole miles of missing curvature. Let me explain. This guy was at a 5 feet high elevation going across 12.4 miles, right? Now at 12 inches per square mile, that is saying we have 62 feet of missing curvature. Literally, if this guy is 6 foot high, there should be 10 of him missing.
The video he is referencing here is a video that was posted on YouTube 5 years ago by the Techie Realm, titled The Farthest Recorded Distance World Record. It shows a guy setting up a camera with a very long telephoto lens, then traveling 12.4 miles away from the camera to record himself with it. And he puts it that this is the longest distance that anybody has recorded themselves talking to camera, and he would like to see it made into an official world record. Unfortunately, I don't think it's ever been recognised officially by the Guinness Book of Records, but the argument that Truth Earth is using is that the globe would have too much curvature over 12.4 miles for such a video to be possible. And to be clear, this is not just Truth Earth making the claim. Even viewing the comments of the original video by Newest First, we have several comments from people going back months claiming that the video proves the earth is flat, such as, I know 100% the earth is flat and this is great video people waking up, or where's the curvature, or way to prove the earth is flat guy. One saying, curious, at a distance of 12.4 miles, calculating earth curvature using the standard 8 inches per mile squared rule gives a drop of about 31.2 meters or 102 feet. That would put him below the camera's line of sight by that amount. Still looks pretty flat though. And one questioning, but I thought 3 miles from ground to ground was the limit. Now, sure, on the face of it, it might seem like a compelling argument. 60 feet or 18 meters should be hidden behind Earth curvature at 12.4 miles, so how are we seeing a 6 foot tall person? Except the thing that Truth Earth and the other flat earthers have overlooked with this is the Earth isn't flat, by which I mean it's not smooth. Even if the Earth overall were generally flat, hills still exist. That calculator that Truth Earth is using assumes his 5 foot observer height and the target are both being viewed at sea level and that the ground between them is the same level as well. In that scenario, then sure, seeing a person 12.4 miles away wouldn't be happening. But if you put them up a mountain that's 12 miles away, you'll be able to see them perfectly fine. Or conversely, if the camera was up a mountain. So Truth Earth is presuming that this is being shot across level ground from somewhere near sea level. Now, the video doesn't specifically say where it was all shot. All it shows was a Google Earth view that plots out the locations of the person and the camera, but not exactly where in the world it is. The only reference it shows is that there's a nearby airport and a place called Alamo, and the fact that it's clearly somewhere in a desert. I was, however, eventually able to narrow it down and locate the exact spot, which is along Groom Road in Nevada, just off State Route 375, not far from Area 51. And just a quick look at here on Google Earth whilst panning the camera down to view across the road from a low vantage point, you can quite clearly see that either end of the road is more elevated than the middle of it. You can even see this changing elevation in the original video. It's quite apparent that either one end of the road is significantly higher than the other, or there's a big dip in the middle. And Google Earth, rather conveniently, gives you elevation figures. The end of the road has an elevation of around 1,450 meters. The other end that joins Route 375 has an elevation of around 1,440 meters, so is 10 meters closer to sea level. However, the middle of the road is 1,311 meters, so more than 130 meters below either end of the road. That's basically like having an observer and a target both standing on top of buildings 130 meters tall that are located 12.4 miles across a lake. Now, I know I've got a mix of metric and imperial going on here, so 130 meters is 426 feet, and 12.4 miles is, near as makes no difference, 20 kilometers. Now, if I take those figures, now with an observer height of 130 meters, and I use the same Earth curvature calculator that Truth Earth used, which doesn't even account for the fact that there's an atmosphere, 130 meter high observer viewing 20 kilometers away would see precisely zero obstruction because their horizon would be 40 kilometers away. Though I suppose you could actually use a location like this to test for Earth curvature. If you were to find locations on either end of this road that were the exact same elevation, set up a long focal length camera at each spot with the cameras looking at each other, then go to the midpoint between the two and fly a drone up that has accurate altitude data. If we take it that the midpoint between the two cameras is 130 meters lower elevation, then on a flat Earth you would need to fly the drone up to an altitude of 130 meters above the ground for it to obstruct each camera's view of the other camera. On a globe though, going 130 meters high would put the drone above the line of sight between the two cameras. So the drone would actually have to measure its altitude several meters lower when it's visible between the two cameras. I think it's around 7 meters, but don't quote me on that. Though launching drones that close to Area 51 actually might not be the wisest idea. Truth Earth then brings up another argument, this time about viewing France from the UK.
Or if we go even further, we can literally see France from England, which is 21 miles distance apart. So based on this formula, France should be 294 feet below the horizon. But in reality, on clear days, you can visibly see cliffs and land that should be hidden behind the curve.
Again, he seems to be under this strange impression that UK and France are pancakes both sitting at sea level. Even though, he points out, you can see cliffs. Though this time he's not even bothering with an Earth curvature calculator for this one, he's falling back on Flat Earthers' trusty 8 inches per mile squared. Right about now, I think there's probably some Flat Earthers watching that'll likely be yelling, "It's not our formula, it's globe maths." Except I've done a whole video here detailing how Flat Earthers always manage to use 8 inches per mile squared wrong. Though Truth Earth rather thoughtfully highlights the exact problem right here in his own video. On the previous example, he'd at least have factored in an observer height, even if it was technically wrong, but for this one, he's omitted observer height entirely. 294 feet missing across 21 miles is reliant on there not only being no atmosphere, but also that you're observing France from the shoreline, buried up to your eyes in the water. Merely having a 6-foot observer height whilst on the beach cuts the amount of obstruction down to 216 feet, which is 65 meters. That means even with no refraction, any part of France that is 65 meters or less above sea level would be obstructed from view, but anything above it would be visible. At least the parts over 65 meters would be. Well, looking at the elevations of the French coastline, many places are higher than that, some reaching more than 130 meters. And that is assuming that the observer in the UK is on the beach. The cliffs of Dover have an elevation of 110 meters above sea level. To anybody standing up there, even with no refraction, their horizon would be over 23 miles away, meaning the entire coastline of France that is within 23 miles of them would be visible. The telltale test would be, can you see the beaches of France from the beaches in the UK? Answer is no, you can't. Even just a quick Google search. I asked it, if I stand on the beach in the UK, can I see the beaches of France? And the initial AI overview states, yes, you can see France from the UK, but only from certain vantage points. And later stating, while beaches like Shakespeare Beach in Dover sit right on the water, you often need to be at least 22 to 76 feet above sea level to see over Earth's curvature and spot the French shoreline clearly. Or I then asked it, if I stand in the sea in France, can I see the port of Dover? Google's response was, no, you cannot see the port of Dover while standing in the sea in France. While the famous White Cliffs of Dover are visible on a clear day, the Earth's curvature completely obscures sea-level structures like the port. So unfortunately for Truth Earth's attempts to prove that the Earth is flat, all he's managed to actually prove is that the Earth isn't flat. It's not only a globe, it's a globe with atmosphere and topography. Well, that's going to be it for this video. As always, feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video and you haven't already done so, then please do consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons, and hopefully we'll see you in the next video.